Welcome back to Let's Talk Tax, the show for growth-minded CPAs and real estate professionals navigating today's ever-changing tax and business landscape. I'm your host, Justin Gephart. In today's episode, we're talking about something that every firm already has, but many overlook, a data goldmine. Inside your own billing records, client files, and everyday conversations are hidden opportunities for growth. The question is, how do you uncover them? Joining me today is my colleague, Jerry Hammel, to walk through a practical framework we call Hidden in Plain Sight. Together, we'll cover three key areas: how to mine your existing data for growth triggers, how to embed expansion opportunities into client relationships, and how to leverage service lines at the right client lifecycle moments. If you've ever felt like growth requires chasing new clients, this episode will give you a fresh perspective and a few Monday morning action items you can put into practice right away. Let's dive in. Welcome, Jerry.
Hey, Justin. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Just so pumped.
Really good to be here. You know I have a passion for this topic. So.
And we were joking. We're talking about data today.
Data. Yeah.
Well, Jerry, I think sometimes CPAs think about growth from going out and getting new clients. But I think what we're here to really explore today is maybe a concept that focuses on what you already have.
Sure. Well, I think, outside growth is so sexy and exciting, right? And so everybody's chasing that new client. I mean, heck, a lot of firms have bells in their lobby, and they get a new client, they'll ring the bell, right? Yep. Nobody rings the bell for expanded services.
Yeah.
Yet, it's probably one of the easiest ways to grow your practice. It's the most efficient BD effort. When you go out and start nurturing a prospect, it takes a long time, and there's a long close cycle, typically. With expanding services, your client's here, you have a relationship, you're proven, you're trusted. A lot of the barriers, of growing externally are removed when you focus on that internal growth.
Yeah, I think about that. From an accounting perspective, your clients are really loyal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to get your foot in the door with new clients. So when you talk about expanding the service lines, you've already done the hard part. You already have the relationship with that current client. And you also want to make sure you retain them. You can go out and grow as much as possible externally, but if you don't do a good job of serving your existing clients, it's going to be an ever-evolving challenge.
Oh, you're exactly right. And that's one of the other advantages I see to the internal growth is that it deepens those client relationships even further. You really move into that trusted advisor space when they realize that you're bringing ideas to them constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, I think from a defensive standpoint, it protects your clients from being poached by other firms.
Absolutely. What do you think the biggest barriers are for firms to act upon?
Man, it might be a little redundant, but I think time. I mean, I think everyone's so busy that they think, I got to take time to kind of think through all my clients and come up with these ideas and identify these opportunities. And that's just not the case, which we'll get into. But I think, and they think it takes a lot of effort. When you mentioned data mining, oh my gosh, how do I do that? And then quite honestly, I think when we talk a little bit later about after you've identified these opportunities, I think fear holds them back. I mean, I think accountants are very technical in nature, and I think they put this pressure on themselves to have all the answers, and clients don't expect you to have all the answers in a meeting immediately. They just want to know that you understand their business, you're technically capable, and you have their best interest in mind.
Yeah. When you look at CPA firms, you talk about just the wealth of information they have at their fingertips: tax returns, CRM, billing cycles. What are some of the flags that firms should look for to identify opportunities?
Yeah, I think we call them flags, but so I'll tell you a little story. So when I was leading a tax practice for a top 50 firm, we had 10 locations, and so one of the things I really focused on was how do we deliver the same type of approach and service for every client, regardless of which office they're in. And so we first started out at this time. I had TJ, I had you, I had Dave come in. We would do kind of what I call dog and pony shows. Mm-hmm. We'd go around, and our big focus is on, okay, well, what's a triggering event when I'm looking at a client, and then what's the benefit, and trying to match those two up. And we did so many training sessions, and we had some growth, but it fell short of what I expected or what I had hoped for. Yeah. So I went back and actually we did when I was there, we did data mining with our new wealth management partner, That's where I first learned about data mining. We did it from a wealth management perspective. Well, then as I reflected on it, I thought, well, wait a minute. This could really be effective within our tax software database and identifying specialty tax opportunities. And so that's what we did. And the really nice thing about it was our growth as from advisory services really took off after that. And the reason is that when we did the training sessions, when I'd go around to the multiple offices, I'd ask, hey, do you have any opportunities today? Well, maybe, and they couldn't remember them. But after we data mined and we said, hey, here's 12 R&D potential clients that could potentially benefit from the R&D credit. Now you had a tangible list. You could sit down and then you could follow up, and there's some accountability in it. That's when we started getting traction.
Well, I think that's one of the exciting parts about you being part of our firm is you've sat on the other end of the table.
Mm-hmm.
You've walked the life of trying to expand the service lines for your current clients. So within that, we talk about this data mining piece, and you and I fully comprehend how important it is and how beneficial it is. What are some of the myths? I mean, if you put your CPA hat back on in terms of the executive leadership within a firm, what were some of the obstacles? What are the myths that you think that we need to kind of communicate to overcome for our listeners?
I don't think there's a lot of myths or things to overcome. I just think people, number one, they think it's going to take a long time. Okay, so that's probably the biggest one. And we'll get on a call with a firm that wants to explore this, and honestly, Justin, within a half an hour, we've already got a game plan for somebody in tax and somebody in IT, or it could be the same person, depending on the size of the firm, on what they need to go do within the database to generate and identify these opportunities, and specifically for our 4 service lines. But this easily, you can use the same approach for the advisory services your firm offers, as long as you define the trigger and the benefit, and then you can go in the database and figure out, okay, well, what in this tax return tells me that I should be talking to them about succession planning, or pick another service line that a firm would have.
One thing we've spoken about in the past is on the data side, all these new platforms and software opportunities. When we talk about data mining, is it a significant investment to do the data mining? I mean, what do you need?
Yeah, it's not significant at all. And I'll start with just, we're a CCH access shop, and I was at my former firm. So it's very, very easy to go in and set certain search parameters for different areas of the tax return. And I'll just use some of our service line examples. So cost segregation is one, R&D, credit, global business services, and then location advisory. And I won't do a deep dive in this because we don't have enough time, but cost segregation, you're simply looking at the balance sheet, and you're looking at total fixed asset cost, and you're looking at the change from year to year. I typically like to have firms go through and data mine like 3 years worth of returns. And we usually wait until the extended season is over, so you capture all of the client data, and you're just looking for increases. And then once that's exported out to Excel, you just simply sort it by the largest additions, in the change in the fixed assets. And then we also pull, when we do that, we pull taxable income, because if somebody's got a big loss, the timing may not be right. So we try to look at, when we sort that, we sort it by the largest change in fixed assets, and then we also look at the companies that are most profitable, and then we identify like the top 20 or 25, and we just work our way through them. Yeah.
What role does firm culture play in surfacing these type of opportunities?
I think one of you mentioned hindrances in culture. I will say that a lot of firms are, even though, let's say we have a relationship, McGuire Sponsel does, with them, sometimes they're concerned about confidentiality, even though we have non-disclosure agreements in place and whatnot. But it's not our data, it's theirs. And so we can approach it a couple ways. If firms are really uncomfortable with that until we've identified a project, what we do is we help them on how to run the data mine. And then what we do is before they share any data with us, we have them hide the client name or any other information that they don't want us to see. And then we just have them number them. And then when we get that data, we'll sort it for what we think are the best opportunities. And then when we sit down with their managers or partners that have the relationship with those clients, we'll just refer to that number, and then they'll have the key on their side. And then when we get to the point where it's a potential project and how are we going to approach the client, then they'll let us know the name and everything. So it's, that confidentiality shouldn't be a fear factor.
And so when you talk about implementing something like this, is it something that we need to go partner by partner within a firm, or can we utilize maybe one point person? How do some of the more successful firms go about tackling this?
I would say, so the ideal process in my mind is when we come in, we meet with one or two people that know how to manage and sort and data mine the tax software data. That's critical. And then that meeting maybe takes a half an hour, just depending on how many questions we have. And then after that, that person will go generate. And when I've talked to them, it's typically, they have that done for all of our 4 service lines and the metrics we choose in a morning. I mean, it's probably a 2-hour process, 4 hours at most. And then when we get that data, they'll share that with us. We probably spend an hour or 2 on it, and we'll evaluate each of the categories, and then we'll sort that and shift the best possibilities, the best potential projects towards the top. And then the next step with that is we'll go back to the firm, and then we'll know which partner or manager has that relationship. And then typically, if you don't have that point person that they want to run everything through, we will just individually schedule meetings with the partner or manager that has 4 or 5 of these opportunities. And we'll just cycle through meetings with them, just depending on how many they have. Could be a half hour, it could be an hour and a half. And I will say, one of the things I prefer to do is, rather than rely on memories, if you're in person and you're able to do these, pull up the tax return, right? We pulled data out of the tax software, but let's pull up the actual return, because maybe we want to jump to the 4562. Maybe there's some other information in there that would further qualify it. Or you look at it and you say, oh gosh, maybe this isn't a good opportunity because of this or this.
The other thing I look at it, putting my executive hat on, this gives me data to assess, is there development that my team needs to be performing? Are they missing some key opportunities? Do we need to spend a little more time on the education side? With your experience, are they missing just kind of the smaller clients, or are you starting to see, do you see some really large opportunities that have been missed across the board?
Oh, I think we've definitely uncovered some big opportunities.
Yeah.
I mean, a $10 million expansion.
Wow.
So
yeah,
but here's the deal. It's not to be critical. I mean, it's really tough. I mean, in the environment we're in today, I mean, CPAs are busy year round, and there always seems to be a deadline. During the COVID and post-COVID years, there were multiple deadlines throughout the year. They were constantly moving, and they're pushing through a lot of work. So it's not what they do, and so they don't necessarily discover it or notice it as they're working through the tax returns. So I completely get it. And the thing I like about the data mining is that this isn't a method to criticize people. It's a method to say, hey, we know your focus is elsewhere. Let's just do this catch-all and make sure we haven't missed anybody.
Is there a common growth opportunity that you see is missed more than often?
I think cost segregation is probably missed the most in terms of a tangible project. I think probably the one that's tough is like location advisory services. You can't really go through and data mine and say, oh yeah, these 10 clients should have location advisory benefits or incentives. What you're really looking for there is an increase in payroll. So is that just an increase in comp, or are they hiring people, or this expansion of real estate, or even personal property? I think you're looking to identify the clients that are in that growth mode. And gosh, I probably need to talk to them either separately or maybe at year-end planning to understand their business strategy of what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I've shared this with some other people in our firm. Data is not necessarily the end-all, be-all. It's a conversation starter.
Oh, it absolutely is.
There may be a reason why something hasn't happened, but at least starts the conversation. From your experience, how often can a checklist be beneficial in the CPA's world?
Yeah, so this is a well-founded theory over like decades of practicing. Okay, so I personally I don't lead with checklists. Okay, yeah. I think checklists to me are more of a reference tool. So if I have a checklist, I'll probably go through it in the car before I walk into the meeting. I'd never pull a checklist out in a meeting. Okay, so and I think that's one of the things that when you have these conversations with clients, I think people tend to get nervous about this. What I would tell you is just really understand. You don't have to understand the R&D credit in depth. What you need to understand is that, gosh, if you have engineering approaches, if your client's changing products or improving products or processes, there's a potential credit out there for money they're already spending, right? So it's a bonus for them. Understand the benefit and understand the triggers of, do they have 5 or 6 engineers on staff? Are they constantly coming out with project or product improvements? If you understand those two things, the easiest way to have that conversation with your client is ask them questions about their business, because every client loves to talk about their business. You probably will run out of time in the meeting if you start asking them those questions. So you don't have to have the technical answers. You just need to have an understanding of the few of the advisory services that you know about, and have that conversation with the client, and then just identify them. And don't interrupt them when they're talking about their business. Say, oh gosh, we need to talk about this R&D credit. No, just let the conversation naturally take place. Park those ideas in the back of your mind, and then bring them up in the context of the conversation.
You know, one thing I've experienced talking with firms across the country is there's sometimes a reluctance to bring an opportunity that they haven't brought in the past. You know, oh, shoot, Jerry, this cost seg opportunity that should have happened 5 years ago, I'm just now bringing it to you. How do you help CPAs get past that fear?
Well, I think, first of all, what I tell you is it's a real fear, okay? Yeah. And what I would tell you is it's natural to feel that way, because nobody wants to miss anything, right? A lot of times, just having the conversation with the client and just telling them, hey, look, we got this opportunity. When they ask, well, gosh, why didn't you tell me about this 2 years ago? You say, well, look, I can't go back and tell you that, but I can tell you we're bringing it today, and here's the benefit you can get. Some cases, if you get a little lucky, maybe there's been a ruling or some court case or a change that you can, a tax law change. I mean, we just had the OB3, right? Maybe there's something you can reference that maybe there's a change in that area and you can lean on it. I'm not saying to make up excuses, right? But I think at the end of the day, 95% of your clients are going to be happy that you brought them this idea, and that they're going to get this benefit as an annuity on an ongoing basis.
Absolutely. I think it's not always about having a successful engagement. It's bringing new ideas to that relationship.
You know, the other thing too that I think that is often overlooked in these kind of situations is that clients want to know that you're being transparent with them. I mean, that's part of the relationship. And so I think there's another element here where, you know what, the client's thinking, well, I know they missed this, but you know what, they brought it to my attention. They very easily could have just kept it buried, but I'm getting that benefit now. And I think those are opportunities to actually strengthen the relationship you have with your client.
Yep. So Jerry, we're CPAs sitting there Monday morning with their peers and other leading partners. What's the one step you'd advise them to start taking? Well,
I just think probably the number one thing is don't be afraid of the data mining. I mean, sit down and have a conversation. We're happy to have a conversation with you, even if you want to do it internally. Just how do you go about it? What's the process that we talked about today? And go in a little more depth so they can do that. Don't wait to do it. It doesn't take a long time. And if you wait, your competitor may approach your client at the golf course or at the restaurant or something and bring up this idea. And so you're going to miss out on an opportunity. I would also say that brush up on the advisory services your firm offers or our services. And so have a good understanding of those triggers and benefits so you can identify them as you're interacting with clients. And then what I would recommend is that pick your best relationship, okay? And just set up a meeting. Could be a lunch meeting, could be out at their place. I always prefer to meet at a client's location. And just practice. Just somebody you're really comfortable with, somebody that is going to give you some grace, and just talk about their business, what's new, what are the biggest challenges, what are they worried about coming into fourth quarter? 2026, what are they worried about there? We've got certainty with a tax bill now, for example, but tariffs are still moving around a little bit. I mean, what are the things going on in this economy that are impacting their business? Don't talk about tax. Yeah.
What advice would you give to let's say a senior manager, maybe a younger partner that's listening to this and say, man, this might be a good idea, but I'm sure they already have this handled?
Never assume is what I'd say, first of all. And I would say that, when I would always work with seniors and managers and senior managers, obviously the first, 3 to 7 years of your career, you're just trying to get your arms around the technical. Okay. And so people are so focused on that. That usually doesn't allow you to become a partner at a CPA firm.
Yeah.
What allows you to become a partner to CPA firm is a business acumen and a business mentality. And advisory services are exactly the heart of helping a business grow, finding equity for them. Those are the things that a client will truly appreciate and remember, and it will deepen your relationship with your clients.
Well, Jerry, I appreciate your time today. Thanks for stopping by. And
we're out of time already.
We're already out of time. See, it goes fast.
It does.
Well, that wraps up today's conversation on leveraging your data goldmine. A huge thanks to Jerry for walking us through how firms can uncover growth opportunities that are sitting right in front of them. As we discussed, the best growth strategies don't always start with new clients. They start with better use of the data, relationships, and service lines you already have. By mining client information for trigger events, embedding growth conversations into your culture, and leveraging lifecycle inflection points, firms can unlock meaningful value for clients while strengthening their own bottom line. If you'd like to learn more about how McGuire Sponsel partners with CPA firms to identify and act on those opportunities, visit McGuireSponsel.com. And as always, thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk Tax. We'll see you next time.